What's up, y'all? It's Vitamin M coming at you with another bourbon review, and today we have a bottle called Elmer T. Lee. Now, I know it's been a while since we've talked. I've started making less of these videos, but I found this today at a bourbon drop over at Total Wine over by me, and they had all these Blantons and all these Weller Full Proof store picks. I'm like, okay, and I got there like 20 minutes before. The lineup wasn't that great, but they still had these when I was up there, and this was really what I was going for because I've had Elmer T. Lee before, but I don't have a bottle of my own. So I was like, okay, if one's up there, there were like 19 of them. They had like 507 bottles total or something like that. I'll grab one then. If not, I'll grab a Blanton's and call it a day. But I was surprised. They had like 10 out of 19 of these guys left, so that's pretty good. But that was a pretty good score today. I will admit I probably overpaid a little bit for this guy, but I'll touch on that in a minute. So Elmer T. Lee, I think I've mentioned him before in my review on Blanton's, but the contributions of this guy can't be overstated. This guy was instrumental within the George T. Stagg distillery company, what we know as Buffalo Trace today, and releasing, he was the master distiller for a very long time, and was the reason that they made a lot of bourbons that they did, and he's the guy that introduced Blanton's. So he was actually a World War II veteran. He's from Kentucky and all this. He rolled up to the factory in 1949, and he said, I'm looking for a job. And Albert Blanton, who was the president of the distillery at the time, he told him, son, we're not hiring today. And so, he runs into, I think, Orville Shupp. Don't know much about him. I'm sure I do, but haven't connected the dots or whatever with his name, but who tells him, just keep coming back. So he keeps coming back, and eventually Blanton gives him a job. He starts on Monday as maintenance, or I think he's a janitor of some sorts. He works his way up to engineer. Eventually he becomes the plant manager and then master distiller. So he's responsible for tasting and releasing all these different things, and he was doing that for a pretty long time, I think like 20 years or so. 1984, he introduces Blanton's, which is the first single barrel bourbon to the market. I've talked about this before in my Blanton's video. Bourbon was at a low. Blanton's helped bring that back up, especially when it had the resurgence in the 90s. But he's responsible for introducing Blanton's in the first ever single barrel bourbon that's out there today. So for all of you people with a horse fetish that really like collecting those bottles, you have this guy to thank. He retired in 1985, but he was still sticking around with the company. He was an ambassador for Buffalo Trace for pretty much as long as he was around until he died in 2013. So soon after he retired, they made this bottle for him, which is also a single barrel, and he got to pick the barrels himself usually when he would stroll by every Tuesday or so. So really cool guy. He seems like a good old boy. I think I read he was born on a tobacco farm, which that's pretty darn cool to me. But that's Elmer T. Lee for you here. And this bottle coming in at, it's a nice looking bottle, but it comes in at 90 proof. It is a single barrel, like I said, sour mash. I don't think I've talked a lot about what sour mash means. I probably will in another video, but basically that means all of the mash that they bring in and that the yeast is going to eat. All of that stuff that's left over, they take a little bit of it and they put it in the fresh mash in the cooker so that everything has almost a consistent taste. That's pretty much it though. I might touch on it more in another video, but that's pretty much what that means. But 90 proof, this thing MSRP is really 40 bucks or so. But I've seen this go for secondary for like $500, $600 just because it's Buffalo Trace, which is absolutely freaking ridiculous to me. This is not worth that. This is not worth that much. Don't really pay over 60. I paid like 70 for this today, but it's pretty solid. For coming in at 90 proof, it gets lost in everything else that's there, but it's a fantastic mixer. I remember there's this old video of him describing how he drinks his own Elmer T. Lee bourbon. And he said, yeah, I just mix it with some Sprite and, maybe an ice cube or something and call it a day. And it's fantastic. And a bunch of people were going absolutely nuts over it. How dare you not drink it neat and all this garbage? And I'm like, let the man drink his bourbon how he wants. Bruzel's already said enough about that, so I'll let him do that. But that's what this is. And I've mentioned I've had this before. I was actually sitting at a bar with my best friend in Atlanta called Grant Park Social. And they had this bottle. I think they were doing pours for like 14 or 16 bucks or something. We both had one. He's had it before. I hadn't had it. I thought it was okay, but that was probably like 4 years ago or something. So ever since then, I haven't had it. And good news for us, this is a fresh crack. So enough of the history lessons and the personal stories. Let's get to drinking. So let's crack this open right here. And here's the lip on this. It's a really nice bottle, like I said. You know, it's got, you probably can't see this on my camera, but yeah, you can. There's Elmer in the back, poking through on the juice here. There's not a really great description of what this is supposed to be. It's a pretty straightforward bourbon anyways, so it doesn't need anything fancy on it, but it just says, Elmer T. Lee produced some of the finest bourbons ever bottled. This single barrel bourbon is a tribute to him. That's pretty cool. So, very nice of them to do that. Fun stuff. So, we'll pop this guy open. Pretty good. A little light pop, but it's pretty solid right there. I forgot I'm also counting calories still, so that might be important. So I got my little jigger that's right here, so I'll pour into this. I have my scale off screen here, but yeah. But this is going to be pretty solid, I think. Coming in at 90, like I said, it gets lost in a couple other things that are out there that's pretty basic, like Wild Turkey, Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, everybody that's got an 80 or a 90 proof. But it's definitely not worth hundreds of dollars or so. Don't pay over 60 for this. Like, it's not worth it. All right, make sure you get every drop in there. Cool. Very nice. And then we'll put the top back on here, and then put this up here for y'all to look at the bottle. So already right away, it's very much, you know, your straightforward signature caramels, kind of butterscotch color. Like I said, 90 proof. It gets lost in a couple things. It's nothing extraordinarily special. It's 90 proof single barrel Buffalo Trace juice. So you know it's going to be pretty solid, but everybody kind of has something like this anyways. So, but that's a good color right there. Maybe a ting of orange or so. Hold up in the light. It looks pretty solid right there. We'll take a whiff on the nose. Ooh, good oak. Definitely, it's super duper sweet. Get a little bit of like punchiness rye on the back. This is their Buffalo Trace's high rye mash bill that's used in this. I don't know if that's the same as Blanton's. I don't think it is. It's definitely different than all the Wellers and stuff. That's all high wheat. So butterscotch caramel, a little bit of oak. Definitely got, you know, the punchy, the graininess of the rye. So that's a really good smell. Straightforward, neat stuff, pretty good. So we'll take a sip now and we'll drink today, because tomorrow we die. Yeah, it's straightforward Buffalo Trace stuff. If anything, you get all that oak that starts to build up on the back. So you get that taste in there. Very straightforward. It's more butterscotch than anything, right on the tongue. So that's good. You get the punchiness on the back of your throat. So you get some graininess from the rye. I mean, it's very straightforward with what it is. There's no thrills here. It's just a bunch of people and Buffalo Trace executives that try to make you think this is worth a hand and an arm and a foot and a leg and your whole darn body for it. But it's not trying to be anything super special. I think that's what a lot of people miss on this bottle. It's just straightforward. I mean, like, if you want like this versus like a basic Wild Turkey, or, I mean, Jack Daniels is always going to have a lot more vanilla, so that's distinct. Jim Beam's going to have a little bit more of a peanut. This has got more of that signature Buffalo Trace, smooth viscosity to it. Definitely lots of butterscotch, good rye on the back. It's, like I said, no thrills here. It's very straightforward. Don't pay over $60 for this. Giving it a ranking, I mean, it's just kind of there, honestly. It's good stuff. I wish it was higher on the proof, but that's me personally. So honestly, it's like to me, it's just, I'm thinking like a 6 out of 10 here. Not that it's bad. It's just, you got to know what you're getting into. 90 proof and straightforward with what it is. It is a single barrel, so that's pretty cool. But honestly, like, it's nothing incredibly special to rank it much higher. I still don't know why people go out of their way to really pay a lot for this. The 2013 tribute one where he died that year, I can probably understand that. I haven't tried it, but thinking back to when I was sitting at that bar with my best friend, yeah, $16 or whatever for a pour to try it. Definitely worth it. Does it live up to the hype that this is? No. So that's what I have to say about this one. I think it's a good bottle. It gets, it's kind of like everybody else's, basic 80, 90 proof or so. Don't go crazy on this. Don't have some super high expectations. But it's really solid. It's just, is it going to be the best darn thing you've ever had? Hell no. Is it going to be the worst thing you've had? By far, no. So it's good Buffalo Trace juice. You can't go wrong. And that'll be it for this episode. Thanks for joining me this time, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Cheers.